So a friend of mine was having trouble with a couple of movements, and I told him just send them to me and I'll figure them out. This one, he said, it's only striking 1 and 1. When you trip the rack stop lever, I tell you that the notch of the rack stop lever has to go all the way into the teeth on the rack, or it's going to skip. And in this case, it's running right. Putting pressure on it, see if it trips for the half hour. That was the half hour. It's doesn't look like it's tripping on the hour. I'm going to do the half hour again. And I might be putting too much pressure on it. I need to put a weight and chain on this thing. But that would be the half hour. I think in this case, and this happens when people turn their hands backwards when it's striking, typically 12. And I've got another video on this. Two things could happen. The arm between the lift lock lever, this arm here, or the tab that catches the snail has gotten bent. And so that's why it doesn't want to cuckoo on the hour or the half hour, whichever one is the case. It works when I manually trip it. And when I manually trip it, the lever goes into the notch like it's supposed to. However, I want to show you this movement. First of all, this tab on the rack stop lever is not going into the teeth like it's supposed to. Second of all, watch this pin. Lifts up the rack once, lifts up the rack twice, and the pin was still in the same notch. I take that back. It wasn't in the same notch. It was on the edge of one notch, and now but it lifted up the rack, and now it's in a notch. And so, in other words, for every notch, it's cuckooing twice. And that's because that pin could be bent, or the first issue that we have to resolve is to put this into a tab all the way, and that is done by bending the tail of the rack. This is called the tail. This is the tab of that tail. So you have to bend the tail of the rack one way or the other to get this to go all the way in the notch. So stand by. Okay, I bent the tab on the tail of the rack. And so now when it goes into the notch, it's going all the way into the notch, okay? But it is still the wire is still not right on this Pac-Man. I know what it's called. It's called the gathering cam with gathering pen. And so when it trips, it is lifting 2 notches before that wire goes out of 1 notch. I'm going to do it for you again. This is in the, it should strike 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay? But it struck twice there because it lifted 2 of the tabs. It's still in the same notch. It lifted 2 of the tabs again. So, and as you can see, when it's all done, the gathering cam with gathering pen is not where I like it. So, with this movement, I'm going to start from scratch and take all this crap off and put the gathering cam with gathering pen in the right spot. And the right spot to me is when this third wheel with warning pen is hitting this side of this tab. This pen would be dead center into what I call the Pac-Man. And it's not dead center, so all you have to do is stick your finger while you're applying pressure on the great wheel. Stick your finger down in there, and you're going to stop those wheels from moving as long as you got your finger in there. And then with a pair of pliers, again, I'm sorry, I'm having phone stand issues. With a pair of pliers, grab a hold of that Pac-Man and put it where you want it. And once you got it where you want it, do a function test. In this case, it's in warning, so he's got a couple of issues with this movement. He don't have the spring in the right spot for the bird pose, so I need to fix that. So stand by. If this setup right here, which got to do with for the music box, if it's not in the right spot, because it's got to do with counterweight, etc. If it's not in the right spot, when I trip the cuckoo, it's going to take a few times to actually make the thing cuckoo. That was the back side. Now I'm going to show you the front side. You see what's going on? And I believe it's because these wires are not in the right spot. So I'm going to move them. And if the rack stop lever doesn't want to fall, if it's got one of these compression clips on it, a compression clip is too close to the movement. All you have to do is take a pair of pliers and give it a little bit of separation. You see, now it falls easily. I took those wires off because I want to see what's going on, and it's still bouncing, and so I gotta figure out why it's bouncing. It looks like this movement is going to have to come apart because there's something going on with it. And it might be the second wheel shaft is bent, and that's why it's doing what it's doing. Once I trip this, it should go all the way around, just like with this movement. Once I trip it, you see that? It just goes all the way around until it's done. It shouldn't be catching nothing. Except for with this movement, like I said, or was it this movement? I'm getting my movements confused. Yeah, this movement was the movement that the wire is lifting the notch twice in one. When the wire goes into one of those notches and it turns, it should only go into the notch and come back out of the notch as it lifts the rack. And watch on this movement. The wire goes into the notch, it lifts up the rack, this notch lever goes into the notch to keep it in position. This wire comes out of the notch. It's only doing that one time. It goes into the notch, lifts it up. As it comes out, the rack drops to go into a notch, and it's only lifting it one time. But on this movement, it was acting weird. So I gotta resolve that issue. So I'm gonna take this movement apart, and as you can see, I have the expensive pair of Knips pliers, but it will not get a hold of the clips, because when they put these things on, they initially put them on all the way. So all you have to do is take a pair of pliers and get a little bit of space between the clip, and then you could take them off. If they're butted up against the movement, the levers don't drop that well, and you can't take them off even with the proper tools. I've already took that and butted up, made some space. So anyway, I'm gonna finish taking this movement apart. And I wouldn't be doing this for just anybody. My friend that I go see all the time, he has epileptic seizures. He takes epileptic medicine. It causes him to shake. He can't take these movements apart because he shakes too much. And so this thing is completely dirty. You can see old grease and grime and stuff. He has a really nice ultrasonic cleaner, and he, without taking the movement apart, he normally gives him a bath in the ultrasonic cleaner, and he pays quite a bit of money for his cleaning solution and rinse. But I don't know if he cleaned these or not, but they're extremely filthy, and that's one of the reasons why I was having trouble. There's grime or something on here. So anyway, I'm gonna turn them off to ultrasonic cleaner. My homemade cleaning solution, I just replaced it. and I'm going to clean these movements up. And I'm sitting here waiting for my ultrasonic cleaner to warm up. And I was playing around with my eye loops that I got back when I was repairing pocket watches. A friend of mine gave them to me. I didn't need them, but he gave them to me. And I did not notice. I'm going to see if y'all can figure this out. Do you see what I'm seeing? I never worked on one of these before that I'm aware of. It's a regular 35 movement. No day code. I believe the regular 35 movements came out in the 1940s. I'm not for sure. I know the regular 25 movements, they might have came out in the 50s, but the regular 25 movements per clockworks.com are post 1950. Here's a regular 25 movement. Here's a regular 35 movement. They are pretty close to being the same, except for regular 35 movement is bigger. It's still a one-day movement because it has a great wheel, a second wheel, and an escapement wheel. But the top section here is different. And the regular 35 movement is a little bit bigger. So, I'm working on a regular 35 movement. Didn't even know it. The parts out of the cleaner, and as I always say, work smarter, not harder. Toothpick in my drill. Makes it so much easier on people who, like myself, who have carpal tunnel or wrist issues, joint issues, and you want to make sure that you do both sides. Be careful that the ends of the toothpicks don't fall off. Make sure you do the wheels, anything that goes onto a post, you want to clean out, especially the rack, because if the rack junk, if it's got junk in it, it's not going to drop freely. The cuckoo bird shut-off lever, if it's got junk in there, your bird is going to keep on cooking. As you can see, that toothpick is no longer clean. So, anyways, I inspected the movement. I'm going to polish up the pivots on the time side and go from there. Yes, I have a lathe. The drill is so much easier. Arkansas stone. If you don't have an Arkansas stone, you could take a popsicle stick or anything. Put the wheel in your drill. When you got it on there flat, it's going to, the width of the pivot is going to mark on this Arkansas stone. And this Arkansas stone, I said it before, it's not abrasive. I can sit here and go like this with my fingernails all day long. It's not going to take and sharpen, file down my fingernails. If you use a piece of sandpaper on a popsicle stick, I don't care if it's 1,000 grit, 100 grit, whatever, it's going to take away the diameter of your pivot. Now, you need to check the pivots to make sure that there ain't no grooves on it. And if there are grooves, you might have to use a popsicle stick with sandpaper on it. But when you do, you're going to have to put bushings in because it's going to make that diameter of that pivot smaller. So, I said this in other videos. The guy I learned from, Bruce Rasmussen, you could buy his DVD off of eBay today. General Clock Repair. He's the one that told me to use an Arkansas stone. And so the guy was a master clockmaker. So he knows stuff. You could, like I said, take a popsicle stick and do the same thing. You're just getting... I've said this over and over and over again. An ultrasonic cleaner is like a dishwasher. It won't get to hard-to-reach spots. With this stuff, it's getting the extra grime, I guess you would call it, off the pivots. Anyway, I'm going to continue doing this. I prefer that you get an Arkansas stone. Time Saver sells them. This thing is only like, I don't know, 4 inches long, 3 inches long. I see Time Savers because I said this before in other videos. I used to use Esther Rose when I came back from England, and when they closed, I just Googled, and Time Savers came up, and they're the people I use. If Merritt's would have came up first, I'd be using Merritt's. If somebody else would have came up first, I'd be using them. I don't spend that much money. It's 3 inches long. Triangle, $16 each. Part number 12363. I had to revert back to my little pink stand here with the light. Before you start putting the movement together, you need to put the cuckoo bird rod locking lever on. That's the very first thing that you got to put on. And it should fall freely like that, and that's why you take the toothpick to it. Remember, it takes an E-clip to put it on. A lot of people forget about putting this thing on, and every once in a while when I get busy, I forget about putting the thing on, and then you got to take the movement all back apart. I'm not going to show you how to put this movement together. I've got videos to show you how to put movements together. I'm going to put this thing on off camera. Just remember to inspect all your parts. This plastic wheel here, you need to inspect it. This one's a metal wheel. This plastic wheel lines up with that metal wheel. If your clock is ticking all day long but your hands ain't turning, it's because this plastic wheel is broken. And so they normally crack or they're loose. This is a good time to oil the click assemblies while you got it out. So I'm going to put this thing back together. I do want to mention this lever right here. This is the wheel that the Pac-Man goes on. And when you put this on, the hurricane symbol here, or whatever you want to call it, it has to be in the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. If it's in the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock position or any other place except for the 9 o'clock and 12 o'clock position, as you're looking straight down on it, your clock will not cuckoo properly. It might cuckoo, it just won't shut off properly. I'm going to back up a little bit. The tab I told you that's on the second wheel that needs to go from the 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock position, that's only if you didn't take the Pac-Man off. If you didn't take the Pac-Man off, that thing is going to go wherever you want, wherever it decides to go. But if you didn't take the Pac-Man off, put it in the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position. As long as when you did a function test prior to taking movement apart, it all worked. But if it's not in the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position, again, I'm having bone stand issues. All you got to do is take the Pac-Man off and put it where it needs to be. I got the movement all back together. I checked every one of the pivot holes, every one of the wheels for inch shake to include the birch and crutch assembly. Everything has to have inch shake. Everything has to have inch shake, every wheel. And so now it's time for me to put, the only thing I need to put on is the rack stop lever and the lift lock lever right now. Remember I told you that when you put these on, that the clips don't want to be touching the movement all the way. Okay, lift lock lever, that's what starts everything in motion. So let me put the clip on. Clips on, you want to gently push it to make sure that clip's going to stay on, because if the clips are worn out, when I go this, I'm putting pressure on it. The system would just continue to come out of the movement because the clip's worn out. There's a little bit of space, and that ensures that the levers will drop freely. Now I need to put the rack stop lever on. And I need to put its clip on. And again, if you got the clip too close, it's going to stay up in the air like that. So I need to back it off some. And all it takes to do that is take a pair of pliers or whatever and give it a couple of taps. And then it will drop freely. There is a spring that goes on this, so I'm going to go ahead and put that spring on, even though the spring is kind of worn out. It's supposed to help push it down. Again, after you got the rack stop lever, again, this is the rack stop lever. Give the great wheel a spin. The third wheel warning pin is going to automatically hit that tab that I was telling you about. I'm having trouble keeping up with my pointers. Third wheel warning pin, you should be able to see it. You should be able to see it from this angle. It's hitting that tab that I want it to hit. This side of the tab, not the inside of the tab. And so after it's hitting that tab, I'm shoving my finger down this movement. You got a guy that uses a clothespin, whatever it takes. I just use my finger. And then I'm going to put the Pac-Man on in the spot that I want it to be. And then I'm going to take a pair of pliers and push it down. You don't want to push it down too far, because if you do, the rack stop lever is going to be hitting it. But you take a pair of pliers and you push it down. It's compression bit. Trying to do this on camera is my issue. I'm going to do it off camera. Stand by. If you're having trouble using a pair of pliers to push it down, once you got it in place, you could take something, but you got to watch out for that wire. Put it in place. This has got a hole on the end of it, so it's going to go over that shaft. Again, be careful of that wire, and then tap it in place. Now, I put my legs on to do that. And so, as you can see, it's got clearance between the rack stop lever and the Pac-Man. And so, so now, you're going to do a function test, and it all moved on me. So I got to, again, the third wheel warning pin is hitting where I want, except for the Pac-Man is not where I want it. So now I'm going to rotate it to where I want it. And do a function test. I think this Pac-Man, I think my buddy, when he was trying to work on this thing, I think he put a bunch of, because now that I have my eyes on, there's a bunch of notches on this Pac-Man. So I'm going to take it off and I'm going to put a different one on. I have spare parts, spare movement parts. And I suggest, if you're going to work on cuckoo clocks, that you get spare movement parts. Like I said, I think he jacked this thing up when he was working on it. So, let's try this again. Put my finger down, lifting the rack out of the rack stop lever out of the way, putting this new Pac-Man on. A blind man putting the parts on and giving it a little bit of pushing it down a little bit, and then testing it, see if I like it where I want it. No, I don't like it there, so I'm going to rotate it with my finger down in the parts. I got it pushed too far down. As you can see, it's touching the rack. And so I could sit here and do this all day long, and it's not going to stop because it's touching the rack stop lever. So I pushed it too far down. So I have to do that all again. Pull it off a little bit. And now it's stopping, but it's in the wrong spot. So pushing my finger down and rotating it a little bit. And as you can see, it's dead in the Pac-Man's mouth. And it's turning freely. And if I would have paid attention, if I would have put my eyes on before I took this movement all apart, you see this? It's all jacked up. I don't know what kind of pliers like I said, he shakes. And so he's got the pliers around this thing, and he's trying to grab a hold of it. Because I told him, because when the clock was done cuckooing, I take that back. When the third wheel warning pin was hitting the lever on the rack, and this wasn't directly in the Pac-Man's mouth, and that lever I told you that goes from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock position, it wasn't in the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock position, so he was having trouble. He wasn't shutting up, and so I told him to take the Pac-Man off. I told him to do what I just got through showing y'all, where you get, with the Pac-Man off, you get the third wheel warning pin to hit that tab, you shove your finger in there, because when you're shoving your finger in there, the gears ain't able to turn, and so that's why I shoved my finger in there. And then you put the Pac-Man on where you want it, but because he shakes so much, he butchered this Pac-Man, and so that was one of his issues. And so I'm going to send that back with him. And so now I got to put all these other parts on. See, I told you the spring sucks. And so I'm going to take a spring off of my parts movement and put on this thing, because the spring keeps coming off. You can rotate these springs a little bit to put an extra loop on them, but sometimes when you do that, your clock doesn't function properly. And so it's best to just, if you got extra parts, put them on. So now it's rotating, and let's look at the cuckoo. Cuckoo is, well, I got this tab on wrong. Easy fix, easy fix. All you have to do is take a flathead screwdriver and put it underneath here and twist. And when you twist, you're going to push down just a little bit. And when you do that, it's opening up the notch that this brass piece, that this lever fits in. And then you stick it back in there, so the tab on the again, I'm having trouble keeping up with all my stuff. You put it back in there, so the tab that's on the bird rod is underneath that pin on the cuckoo bird shutoff lever. And then you push it down into the notch, and then take a pair of pliers and squeeze this piece closed just a little bit. If you squeeze it closed too much, see, that's got too much shake in it, so I'm going to squeeze it closed a little bit more. If you squeeze it closed too much, it won't allow, that's better, it won't allow the bird post to move that much. Now I have to put the spring back in place, and I'm going to do all that off camera. Remember I was talking to you about that lever that goes from the 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock position when the clock is done cuckooing? There's a purpose behind that. And currently it's done cuckooing. See, watch. It's done cuckooing. However, the cuckoo bird rod locking lever did not release to allow the cuckoo to go back into the door. And I'm going to explain to you why. You should be able to see, well, hopefully you could see Here's that lever right here. If I could position the camera correctly, the lever is in the 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock position. So what is going on, the arm for the cuckoo rod locking lever, it's on top of that hurricane symbol, or whatever you want to call it. And so it can't release this because that lever is pushing it down. Easy fix. Again, you have to take the Pac-Man off, but you have to well, it's not an easy fix on this regular 35 movement. I meant to show y'all, I'm going to go ahead and take this thing apart. And just 1 second. This is called a 2-arm bell crank and lever. This is a regular 35 movement. Remember that. On the regular 25 movements, this part right here has got a curve in it, and it goes underneath the third wheel with warning pin. And so, because this is straight across, I can't do what I told you I was going to do. And so I have to take that 2-arm bell crank off in order to do what I was wanting to do. And so now I have to put everything where I want it, and then put that 2-arm bell crank back where I want it. So stand by and let me put all that back together. Again, if this was a regular 25 movement, all you'd have to do is take the Pac-Man off, rotate the wheel until that lever, this lever right here, is in the 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock position, going from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, or 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock position. With it being on the 12 o'clock position, it was hitting this. It was hitting this right here, and so it wouldn't let this drop to release the cuckoo bird to let it go back in the door. It's getting to be a long video, and I'm sorry, but I just want to explain everything to you in case you're having these issues. So if you're working on a regular 35 movement, I would suggest not to take the Pac-Man off if it's in the right spot to start with, if your function tests function properly. But with the regular 25 movement, if it's in the wrong spot, you just take the Pac-Man off, you rotate the wheel to where it's in the 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock position, and then you put the Pac-Man back on. But because this lever is straight across, you can't do it. I told you from the beginning, I thought that this shaft, I take that back. I told you from the beginning that this second wheel shaft could be bent, and if you look really closely as I turn it, it changes position. It is bent slightly, and because it's bent slightly, at times the Pac-Man is not touching this lever. At other times, it is touching this lever. Bottom line, I'm going to have to take this all back apart and either replace that second wheel or straighten out that second wheel. And if you watch really closely, watch right here. You see it? It's bent. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you can see it from this angle or not. Anyways, bent, and I need to straighten it out. Because it's a regular 35 movement, I don't even know whether a regular 25 or a regular 34 second wheel will fit in it. It might be a different diameter, so I'm going to try to fix it the way I always fix bent things. Okay, I resolved all the issues that it was having with the wire lifting up 2 notches, etc. When it's tripped, it goes directly into the notch. However, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. This notch is the notch on the tail of the rack is up too high, so it has to come down some so it doesn't go into the 13th notch. And so I want to mark where the 12th mark is. And then bend the tab down some. And again, it just takes a while to figure this stuff out. It's not down enough. I could separate the distance between this arm, and that would bring it down some. Still not down enough. And all this happens, and I don't care what people say, this all happens from when there's in the 12 o'clock notch. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Something. The rack is bent too far out at the very end, so I'm going to take this off and straighten it out some and try it again. And this is all part of the functioning test, and it's a pain in the butt sometimes. It's going to hit 12 because it's on my mark that I made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so now I have to go through every one of these numbers. This should be 11:30, which it is. Sorry, 12:30. And 1 o'clock is going to catch up here. If your 12 o'clock position is too far to this mouth of this snail, as it strikes 12 o'clock, your clock will stop at 10 minutes till 1. It might be finished hitting right here, but this tab, stupid stand, it might be finished striking right here, but this tab is caught right here. The tab from the rack, it's right here. But your clock is going to continue ticking, and the snail is going to continue rotating, pulling on that tab, and about 10 minutes till 1, your clock will stop. And that is the only time it stopped, and that's because when you put the snail on, you put it in the wrong position. So you need to pay attention as to how you put it on, where you put it on, etc. Once I put the E-clip on, it won't be doing all that stuff. Or it shouldn't be doing all that stuff. I just don't like putting the E-clips on until after I'm done with my function tests. That was 12:30 position. This is 1 o'clock position. You want to verify, again, that this tab is going into the notches on every number. This is 1:30 position. This is 2 o'clock position. And it's dead on in the notch. 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock. So it's all working properly. And I'm going to continue doing this all the way back to 1 o'clock. So this movement is basically fixed. And you will see the cuckoo bird post comes out. And then at the very end, it goes back in. So one more movement to go. And with this regular 25 movement, it's only cuckooing one time every time. And I have a video out there that explains this. Well, it's not every time. Yeah, every time. What it is, the the lift lock lever, and I hate these things. They got some really small E-clips on them. And that might have went into no man's land. The rack stop lever, the arm from here and the arm from here, it's too narrow. It needs to be spread apart more, because if you look, and I believe this is, I don't know which one's the hour, which one's the half hour. I believe that was the hour. This is the half hour. It barely lifted up on the half hour. And this is the hour. On the hour, it should be lifting up to here, and it's not. And so, on the half hour, it's fine, but on the hour, it's not lifting this. It's not lifting the rack stop lever enough. So you have to separate the, you gotta spread those arms out, is what I'm getting at. And I'm gonna see if I could do this on camera, but I doubt if I can. And it don't take a lot. There's the half hour. It's plus the lever that hits the hurricane symbol. It's not hitting the hurricane symbol. So there's the half hour. Here's the hour. And so, best way to try it is to put the rack back on and see if you did any good. That would have been the half hour, and it should have moved over a notch. There was the hour. The half hour didn't move over a notch, so I gotta spread it apart some more. So I'm gonna do that off camera the exact same way. Is I'm gonna take my pliers here, and I'm going to put them in the arms and spread them out. Anyway, I'm gonna do it off camera, and I'll get back to you. As you will now see, on the half hour, now on the hour. And again, it's because the lift lock lever that has these two arms on it got bent in some. And I've said this before, if you pay attention to the way this snail is made, as it goes this way, the notches, it's got a slope to it, okay? So when you are, when it's striking, it's going clockwise all the time. However, when it's striking, if you turn the hands backwards, I can't do it with this piece right here, but if you turn the hand backwards, this tab slides along this section of the snail, and then it catches that piece. And when it catches that piece, it's putting pressure on it. You see, I'm turning the thing, and it's putting pressure on it. I can turn it clockwise all day long, but when it's striking, if you turn the hands backwards, it's putting pressure on that snail, and something's gonna give, and it's gonna be this, and it's gonna be that lift lock arm. So never, ever tell your customers to turn the hands backwards. There are times when you could turn the hand backwards. You've heard me say this before. A resume on a cruise control is meant to resume the speed that you were at. I got a video on this showing you, I'm driving down the highway doing 70, 75, whatever. I slow down to 35. I hit resume. It takes me from 35 to 75. So if you were driving in town and you accidentally hit the resume on your cruise control, it's going to take you from doing 35 to whatever speed you were going. And depending on whether you're on a hill, the way the cruise control works, it brings up your RPMs, and if you're on a hill, it's going to bring up your RPMs even faster, and you could cause an accident. It's designed to resume your speed. The rack and snail is designed to turn the hand backwards only when it's not in warning and then when it's not in striking. So don't get in the habit of turning your clock hands in a clockwise position. I wish I had a proper stand. Sorry. I've showed this before. I'm going to show it on this clock right here. The cuckoo bird comes out of this hole. Now I could, with one hand here, I could hold him in the hole, and I could rotate these hands all day long in a clockwise position until it gets to the time frame that I want to put it at, which is 10:44. The first time it cuckoos is going to be off. The second time it cuckoos, it will be dead on the money. And at 11 o'clock, it'll cuckoo 11 times. So again, don't turn your hands backwards. Don't, you'll mess stuff up. You'll bend stuff. I don't know how else to explain it. Hope y'all enjoyed these videos of me repairing both the regular 35 movement, and to my knowledge, it might be the second or third time that I've worked on a regular 35. I might not have ever worked on a regular 35 movement, but repairing both the regular 35 and the regular 25 movements. Leave me some comments. May God bless each and every one of you.